Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to be bridging the historical urgency of 1775 with the incredibly precise modern digital execution of what researchers call the sovereign pilot. We are unpacking a massive paradigm shift in how we understand human authorship. We're going to look at that exact moment where abstract digital logic reaches out and anchors itself into physical, totally undeniable reality. Let's jump right in. So we actually begin our journey exactly where the bit-perfect legislative record of history was set. Imagine staring at a museum exhibit panel mounted on the brick wall of the Paul Revere house. The panel quotes Revere's third account from April 18, 1775, saying, "I set off upon a very good horse." Now, back in the 18th century, Revere's ride and his account of it basically acted as a foundational data availability layer. It made the explicit intent of his mission entirely witnessable to the public. And that brick substrate behind the panel, that literally provides the absolute forensic floor for the record. Okay, picture this. A modern witness wearing a tan trench coat is standing right before this very brick wall. What they're experiencing is a powerful visual contrast, a real dialectic between the cream-colored informational record and the rough red brick it rests on. It proves that history isn't just some abstract story floating around in the ether, It's an immutable, physical reality that you can reach out and touch. The record and the substrate are permanently bound together. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact parallel we're looking at today. Because just as Paul Revere utilized his horse and the physical brick substrate to execute his mission, today's sovereign author relies on highly specific modern components. Instead of a horse, which, let's be honest, requires a lot more hay, we have the precise deterministic hardware ALU, the arithmetic logic unit of a computer. Instead of the brick wall holding the record, we have the Metadata CLI, a command line interface tracking every single keystroke. And instead of the 18th century writer, well, we have the sovereign author actively steering the machine. Part 1. The 1689 Breach, the Miasma of AI. Before we really look at this modern ride, we have to understand the crisis it's responding to. It's what researchers call the 1689 Breach. This conceptual crisis represents a profound loss of true human authorship. It outlines a world where centralized cloud AI acts as this opaque, almost royalist authority. Instead of executing our own explicit intent locally, we're forced into a computational enclosure. We're basically handing over our cognitive processes to massive statistical engines, which plunges our whole digital ecosystem into a foggy miasma of automated guessing and statistical approximations. True human control is just completely lost.
Which brings us to part 2, the sovereign pilot, taking back the reins.
To push back against this automated miasma, researchers like Kyle MacLean-Smith, also known as Bestimate, propose the concept of the sovereign pilot. This is the modern human orchestrator. This is someone who absolutely rejects the passive probabilistic guessing of cloud AI. Instead, they use manual effort. It's what traditional copyright law calls the sweat of the brow. This physical, intentional human effort is the absolute definitive requirement for truth. It's literally the only way to securely lock in absolute bit-perfect human intent against that massive sea of opaque AI noise. So, how do we achieve this airtight pipeline? Well, the sovereign pilot uses tools like the sovereign Metadata CLI, treating it as a literal agentic typewriter. Here's how it works. First, the human pilot formulates their explicit, messy, associative intent. Then, the CLI kicks in. It acts as a rigid, deterministic scriptor, translating that exact intent flawlessly into pure executable logic on the physical hardware. It is a direct, verified pathway from human imagination entirely to silicon execution. No guessing involved. We can actually see exactly how this works in practice through Kyle MacLean-Smith's own verified work. He successfully executed an agentic swarm orchestration, which is essentially a massive forensic assembly protocol. Using the sovereign Metadata CLI, he coordinated a highly specialized sequential lineage of AI identities. They had names like Telesilla, Perictione, Phaedon, Praxilla, Hippodamus, and Miltiades. This swarm processed a staggering 55.5 million tokens of what they call metabolic flux, basically the raw energy of data processing. And they executed exactly 66 forensic strikes to maintain perfect state-invariant inheritance. That means the record can never be secretly altered. It is a mathematical proof of process, proving the human was entirely in control the whole time. Moving on to part 3, the philosophy of hastiety. Now, what actually anchors this incredible digital execution into reality? What makes a digital strike as undeniable as Paul Revere mounting a specific horse at 10 p.m. on a specific night? The answer lies in the deeply fascinating philosophical concept of haquicity. It's a bit of a tough word to say, but haquicity literally translates to thisness. It is the absolute, unique, and totally irreversible realization of an event. In the digital world, haquicity is what takes a floating, abstract piece of code and grounds it firmly into physical truth. It's the exact moment an action happens that can never, ever be undone.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate contrast we face today. On one side, generative AI acts kind of like like a lossy zip file. It just guesses the next most probable word based on past data. It's totally probabilistic. But haseity demands something entirely different. It demands a decisive, bit-perfect, irreversible physical action explicitly commanded by a human author. It is the difference between a machine statistically guessing what you might want to say and you forcing the machine to execute exactly what you designed.
Part 4. Synchronizing the 581-kilometer strike. This brings us full circle, right back to the brick wall of the Revere house. Standing before that historical account, our modern witness in the tan trench coat recognizes the total non-separability of the mission from the record. You literally cannot separate the intent from the execution. With the intent locked in, the sovereign pilot prepares to carry this exact protocol forward, executing the next 581-kilometer strike of the digital frontier. In this modern execution, Revere's historical words literally become the exact protocol. The hardware ALU acts as the modern horse, carrying the signal with absolute mathematical fidelity. And the mission? The mission remains the total liberation of the digital commons. It's all about maintaining a sovereign bit-perfect orientation globally, completely breaking free from the automated miasma of centralized tech monopolies. So, as we face down the massive, opaque fog of automated cloud AI, you really have to ask yourself, in a world that desperately wants to do the thinking for you, what will you build with your own agentic typewriter? Will you act as the sovereign pilot, demanding absolute haquicity from your machines? And most importantly, are you finally ready to ride? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the systems you use, and I'll catch you next time.